recording. So we are recording and we're doing this live. Today is Tuesday, January 12th, 2016. It's about 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My name is Gene Pennington. Welcome to the Pennington Research Association's MyHeritage website webinar. This is part 2, the first presentation of part 2. We'll be covering things such as the family tree, how to add a person, how to add facts, event, or source, how to add a new family tree, search the records, talk about smart matches and record matches, as well as we'll do questions and answers. Part 1 of this presentation covered the basics such as logging in, site features, navigations, and those 2 presentations have already been given. One of them is available on our website in our members only section under materials for members, and it's there. You can just click on it, and I recommend you download it and then on your local computer, and then you can play it at your convenience and stop and go rather than try to do it live from the website. It works much easier that way. But it is there, and that's the one we gave last month. Okay, hopefully all of you have had a chance to look at the PRA's MyHeritage website, and you've had the opportunity to kind of fool around with it and look at the tabs and so forth. Are you currently logged in okay, Jim, to the PRA MyHeritage site?
I have it on a second computer, and it's running very slow, but I do have it on my screen.
Okay, cool. Jill, are you with us yet? Can you hear me? Okay, maybe there's something malfunctioning with her audio. Maybe she can type in the question or chat and let us know that she's got the broadcast okay. Anyway, in the part, did you attend or view the recording on the part 1 for our MyHeritage, Jim? I don't recall if you were with us or not in those.
Yes, I was.
Okay, good. So you've been with us and understand the basics of the tabs at the top and how to navigate around and so forth. All right, good. Well, before I get going, do you have any questions that you want to ask in the beginning that might relate to what we did in the part 1 with the logging in and those kinds of things? Or
everything seemed to be fairly simple. It's just a matter of having a little more confidence getting in there and playing with the tabs and do something rather than, get stuck and stop. So
okay, all right, that's good enough. Have you had a chance to use any of the help features or not, or use any of the help that's there in MyHeritage?
I have those listed, but I haven't physically used them yet.
They're really good the way they, once you get into them, but unfortunately, instead of putting the help thing at the top, it's way down at the bottom of the windows. And I've sent them suggestions a couple of times, asking them to move it or it's a more visible place. Because there's just a lot on a window to go through, and it's not instinctively up there at the very top, where you can get to it right away. But anyway, hopefully in the future they'll change that and it'll make it easier for us. Let's go ahead and let me kind of cover just the basic part about searching a family tree. I'm going to go up here to the upper left-hand corner where it says Pennington Research Association. Then I'm going to move over to the right down to the family tree tab, and I'm going to click on family tree. By default, our website is set up to open up the PRA master file, okay, which is the main database we have, and I think it's like 80-something thousand people that are in there right now. However, if you want to work on the other one or search it, if you go back over to the far left side now that we've gone to our main tree, you'll see that there is one that says PRA master file, and next to the right of it is a click down arrow. And if you click on it, you'll notice that now Isaac Pennington 14.1 is there, and you can click on it and go to that family tree if you want to go search it. Now it's locked in such a way that you cannot add to it, um, because that tree was built by a professional genealogist in England for us, and so we don't want to tinker with it. We want to leave it alone because it's primarily a resource and a reference site. But anyway, we're here on the PRA master file. It's 89,901, so there's been some additions since I looked at this last time, which is good. And if you notice, well, let me ask a question real quick. Can you see the family tree window okay, or should I make it a little larger? If I expand it like this, does that help at all?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's about as far down as I can get that. So. Okay. When the tree opens, by default, it goes into the pedigree view, and it starts with Levi Pennington. I keep trying to get it to change that, and it'll do it for a while, then it reverts back. I have no idea why, but it starts with Levi Pennington as the middle person in the middle of the tree window. And over to the left, you'll notice that there's another slide out window that's here that has Levi Pennington's name on it with his basic information, as well as some other tabs, and we'll get into those in a minute. But let me go up here first. I'm going to collapse his window, and I'm going to go over here to the very top part, right-hand side. I'm going to use the spotlight for a minute. But right in here, this little window here that says Find a Person, all right? And that Find a Person is a great simple way to do a quick search if you're looking for a particular person. So you just start typing the name. Like I'm going to start with Benega Pennington. And right away you notice there's several people that pop up because there's several Benega Penningtons, and the first names are all spelled the same way, even though there are some with different spellings, variant spellings of that first name that are in here. Now in this case, I'm looking for my 5 times great grandfather, and I know his birth date and death date, so I can spot him right away. So I'm going to click on him, and it brings him up to the middle of the page. And then because I collapsed the side window to the left while ago, I'm going to open it up again. And now it comes back up with his information where I can look at various pieces of it, like birth and so forth and so on. And you notice as I scan down too, there's a thing here that has an edit. So I could actually go in and edit that. There's also a little line here that says add a fact. And I can add a person with this, I can edit, I can go to his profile, and there's even more options I can do. Just view his tree alone. I can connect him to an existing person, or I can remove a connection. Okay? So, and I could delete, which we don't want to delete. If we have a concern we'll talk about that under the adding person and so forth and so on, but you want to be very careful when you're doing this. When you change or add something, a person, a fact, an event, or you edit something like that, that we document, that you've done it and why, and you add your sources and citations. And if you change something, the same thing, add a little note to it that, hey, I changed it. So that there's kind of a track record, if you will, so the next person knows why you've changed it. So that's how you can search a person really easily. Now I'm going to go back up here to the Family Tree tab again, and you notice the very first one is People now, because we've gone to this tree. So I'm going to left click on People. It takes a second to load it, and it's, it depends on the internet connection, of course. And then it comes back up with this window, which is an alphabetical listing starting with the first names and then going through that way. Now, in our case, you'll notice that the first group of people you're going to see are not necessarily in alphabetical order, but the one thing they have in common is they have a star in front of the surname, and then at the end it has the group name or number. And we went back and added that so that it conforms to the way we've had it set up before, where each one of the group progenitors has a star in front of their surname, Pennington. And then we added the group 10 or group 1 or whatever group number it is at the end of that. So when you're searching for a progenitor, it's a quick, easy way to do it. You can just go to the search and find a person and just type in the wildcard, the star, and it's going to give you a list of that. Or when you open this page up, it gives it to you. And now they're in alphabetical order, but they start with the group 1, then it goes to 10, 11, and 12. So it does it by numerical search on the last name because it thinks this is a search feature, which it is. So it does it by group numbers first, and then it goes alphabetical after that. So it's kind of interesting how the computer database does that. So if you're looking for a particular group progenitor, you're not going to necessarily find them in alphabetical order by their given name. They're going to be by group number, then by given name. So, or you can just, of course, scroll down because we got 34 groups. So you can scroll down them and you can go to each one of those group progenitors and take a look at that particular person. Or you can go to that particular group progenitor and then take a look at the descendants or their family tree as an easy way to look if you're looking for somebody there. So if you wanted to search, just if you're in this people tab under family tree, you could just click here where it says people and there's a white box again. Again, you can just type the name. So I'm going to do, and again it pops up, but this time you notice it doesn't give you a birth date or anything else. It just shows you the name. That's why I like that first search bar. But that may not work for what you're looking for, so you might want to try this and just see the Benega Pennington and then hit the go button, which is the little arrow here to the right, and it says start searching if you point to it. You also have down below surname where you can do an alphabetical sort if you just wanted to do a quick search of all the P's, for example, but there's quite a few Penningtons in here. Or other unknown, you can go into there. And then on show advanced search, you click on that and now pops up, you can search in all fields, spelling exact or soundex, or you can be selective on just first name, display name, or places. So you actually could even search for places here if you wanted to. So that search capability within that area is pretty powerful. So you've got several different ways that you can search for things, and so forth. And once you do this, you notice here it says sort by last name, first name, birth date, birthplace, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and search. And now this time you notice what it did. It came back with all of the Benega or Benijah Penningtons, and because it didn't give me the option about being selective on the date. So what I like to do, if you already have an approximate date, use the search family tree in the very beginning when you have the pedigree view up, because that will offer you some date information if you've got it in it and if the database has it. If not, then come to this window if you want and you can do some additional searching and try to find it. So a couple other search tricks. Let's say that you're looking for who you believe to be your oldest Pennington ancestor, and his name is Jedediah Andrew Smith Pennington, which, a lot of our ancestors loved middle names. So you may not, like I have an ancestor named Andrew Jackson Monroe Pennington, and then he had a son who named him Junior. So the thing I found interesting in searching databases, and particularly military databases, was because these names took up so much room and because they were recorded in cursive, quite often what you would get something like Andrew J.M. Pennington, or you would get J.M. A.J.M. Pennington, or just Andrew Pennington. And because depending on who was doing the recording, they might shorten it up one way or the other. Well, in the military records for my great grandfather, four-time great-grandfather, who died in the Civil War. I found him in the military records on fold.com's website as A.J.M. Pennington. And I searched all day long for variation, but it never occurred to me to just search on just the initials. So sometimes you have to get creative and search under different variables in order to have some success. And searching, I use the principle of throw a wide net, with the biggest parameters you can think of. And if you don't know the death date or birth date, try using a 10-year window. So let's say that you think it's 1850 is his birth date. Start looking with the name of the person, but look at 1845, and the ending range would be 1855. So you got a 10-year window there. And many times you'll find some success that way. And if the 10-year window doesn't work, try going 15 years one way or the other, or 5 more years to the younger side, or 5 more years to the older side. And I have found a lot of times in searching the databases that whoever recorded it or whoever entered it into a database, that they were not sure themselves, so they kind of guessed. And rather than putting a CA, which stands for circa, or ABT, which stands for about, they just put it down as 1855, thinking, well, I'll split the difference. So you see a lot of that. So try it again, when you're searching for somebody, throw that broad net out there first. And then once you put in all the parameters that you are searching for, like the given name or names, and the surname, and dates of birth and death as minimum, and you don't get anything, try changing plus or minus 5 years for birth, and then go back and try changing plus or minus 5 years for death, and then doing either or, and then try looking maybe for some initials, especially if there's multiple middle names, and see if you can get something that way. And a lot of times the information that we have as researchers that's either been handed down through family Bible or by family folklore or word of mouth, many times it's not accurate, not even near accurate. And so you be as creative as you can when you're searching, and don't get discouraged. And sometimes maybe you can't find that long lost ancestor, but maybe you were able to find one of his children or his spouse, and you're able to backtrack it that way. I've had many times I couldn't find the name of the person that somebody who joins us sends me, and it's because the given name is different than what they were giving me, but yet the spouse was correct. And so I find the spouse and go check the spouse and find out that she was married to somebody named Pennington, but with a different given name, first and middle given name. And even the date of birth might be off or something like that. So it's interesting sometimes when you find these variations there, so don't be discouraged by it, because you may strike out at first, but later you're going to have success. So try throwing the wide net and then narrowing it down from there to search. Okay, any questions on that part of it about how to search that family tree? Okay. Let's go back over here to home for a second, and I'm going to go back to family tree and just click on family tree and go back to the base unit again. And again, we're back to good old Levi Pennington. So I'm going to go back up here to Benega. Let me search for him again. Find him. Because whatever I add here, I can change it. So right here, there's a couple ways you can add somebody. The easiest way is to the left-hand side in the slider window that's here. And right here is a little icon with an outline of a person with a plus sign, and it says add. And if you point to it and hold your cursor, it says add a relative. So if I left click on this, the first thing that pops up is that it says, okay, do you want to add a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, son, daughter, or add another partner? So, that's an easy way to do this. And if I click on add another partner, then this window pops up. And by default, it says, oh, it must be a wife, okay, because I said add a partner again. And so this window right here becomes a nice, easy window in order to quickly add somebody. And you notice it's his first and middle name, and then next is maiden, which is important, and then prefix, suffix, if at all, and then you have married name, and then birth date. You notice you have a drop down exactly before, after, or circa, or you can put unsure date, or between and from, and so on and so forth, or you can do free text. So they give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They give you about 8 or 9 different ways to put the birth date in there. So if you're not exactly sure of the date, you can always use these other parameters. Okay, so that's a nice thing to be able to do. And then over here in the birthplace, when you click on this drop down arrow, you notice that it already has a bunch of locations already located in here. So if I start clicking and I put down, let's see, give me what's a county in the, if I could type it would help. Okay, let's see. Huh, that's interesting. I was going to type Raleigh County, but it doesn't. So Rowan. Okay, so what it does, it comes up with all these different places in Rowan County. And if you know the place, of course, you can put Rowan County. If you don't know the name of the little community in Rowan County, you can just select Rowan County. Okay, and you notice there's some different spelling. There's also one in Kentucky, also one in North Carolina, and there's a couple places that are spelled out differently. This is something that we should go in and should clean these up and make the ones that are obviously the same location, but you don't want to override something like Rowan County, Kentucky. I'm not aware of it, but it may be. I don't know. But anyway, that's how you could quickly and easily pick from an existing list to match when it's there already. There's Salisbury, Rowan County, North Carolina, and all the rest of that. And then here under the living or deceased, same kind of a thing with matching information. Death place, the same thing. You can type something and it'll start matching it. And then under cause of death, once again, you have all kinds of things you can put in there as to why the person died, or you can select unknown. And then the birthplace or cemetery, it has a lot of issues already, has a lot of information already in it for places that have already been listed. So you can pick these out and go ahead and use it. And of course, if it's not there, you can add a new place. And then you have a relationship, married, divorced, separated, and so forth, and marriage date. And again, you have the same option with exactly before, after, or whatever, and marriage location. And you can edit more information such as bio and facts, and it's going to open a second window up. And now you can go through the same thing and you can save and continue, and you can add additional information here. And you notice on the left-hand side now, let me highlight that. Over here, you have these additional pieces that you're going to be asked to fill in where you can. If you can't, you can't. And here, of course, is the source citations, and there's all facts and everything else. So it's an easy place to start in that left tab with add a person and add what you can. And then you can jump to this window to continue, and then you can start filling in more information from there. Okay? So did that look pretty straightforward about how to add somebody?
Yes, lots of details available there.
Okay. And the challenge might be, let's say that you want to add somebody, but you don't know the father or mother. And this is just a brand new person that's not yet in the database, and they don't have any family in there at all. So what I would do in that case is I would go ahead and start with the oldest person in that family lineage, and let's say that it's a Pennington. Add that person first and add his wife, add the facts that go with it, marriage date, location, and so forth and so on, and death dates and all the information you have, and then go back and then start adding one child at a time. Kind of do it one step, one layer, if you will, at a time. And then that will then build that person in their family tree within the PRA master file. Now, there are a lot of people in the master file database that are not attached to a known family group. And so they're kind of like hanging fruit, if you will. They're on a family tree, but their progenitor, whoever that person may be, the lineage stops there because we've not been able to connect them yet to a known family tree, or a family group, if you will. And that's okay. There are several people like that because they were not able to go past, say, the fourth or fifth generation to get to that next level, or sixth, wherever it might be. They just were not able to make that next step to definitely hook up with that person. I'm going to show you an example of that. Go ahead. You got a question? I'm going to cancel out of this for a minute. Okay, now here's a good example of that. If you notice, this is my 5 times great-grandfather. And he has neither father or mother listed for him or for his unknown wife, which is the one that I just added on there. I thought that I'll go back and fix that later. But anyway, and the reason for that is because even though I belong, if you will, to group 7, we don't have any proof, genealogically supported citation or evidence to support that connection to group 7. The previous research director, when he saw the name of my 5 times great-grandfather, he made the presumption, unfortunately, that I was Benega. My 5 times great-grandfather was the same Benega Pennington who was the son of the group 7 progenitor, who in fact is another Benega Pennington, but a different guy. So I got assigned to group 7, so I've just left it alone in terms of, and I tell everybody I belong to group 7. Genetically, on the DNA studies we've done, there are many people who know that they're in group 7. They can prove it through their genealogical research, and they've got the sources and citations. And interestingly enough, we match enough of our DNA that our DNA study chairperson, Dr. Pennington, he goes, yeah, you guys all belong to group 7. And Gene, even though you can't prove it with genealogical sources and citations, the fact that you have so many matches on your DNA markers with these other guys who you can be pretty sure you belong to group 7, even though you don't know where the connection is. So that's one use of DNA. So that's an interesting way to do that. Okay, the fact, event, or source. Well, I'm going to go back over here and go to him again and click on more. And nope, sorry about that. I'm going to go to him. And then right down here, you notice it says add fact. So I'm going to left click on add fact. This opens up another window. And this looks a little different than the previous window we were looking at, when we were adding a person. We started with their name and went through it step by step. But this is an interesting way to do it, and it's quick and easy. And over here to the left is a whole set of facts that you can take and pick from. And it has all facts, custom, general, personal history, military, and so forth and so on. And 2, that's the category. 2, you can select the event. You notice the fact type changes when I click on the category. So like I clicked on birth, and it gives you several different fact types. If I click on residence, see how it changes, the fact type changes? If I click on education, same thing. If I click on military, same thing. So, or you can enter a fact type down here, and there's a drop-down list where you can go in and you can pick from several that are already in the system. Okay? And if you don't like this one, you can also go in and you can go to the different window and you can customize the fact type. An example would be census. Let's see, yeah, see how it says census here? You could go and create a different one, which I do in my own personal database. I will create a fact type that says 1860 census or 1860 U.S. Census. And so that I can use that basic fact template over and over again. But then when I use the basic template, I customize it for the particular individual. That's just one way I use the customization feature, but you don't have to do that. All right. So did you see how I did that with the fact? Start with the category first, and we have the common categories over in the right-hand side. Then the fact type has options. Birth in the fact category has, then on the right-hand side, the fact type has several to choose from, and so forth. And it goes right through that. Okay. So I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to go back over here to, and MyHeritage uses, I'm going to click on his profile for a second. MyHeritage uses facts, the terminology facts, and a lot of times it mixes in with events. So here I'm on his profile, for example, and the first tab says information, and it talks about, it shows records and photographs, and then shows immediate family and so forth and so on. Then it has breakdowns here of education, contact, personal, source citations, favorites, and so on and on. And under biography, with an edit by it. And here you find some editing of information that was given. And I can see a typo here. Looks like Melinda added that. So I'll have to look at that. And anyway, so that's there as well. And then down below for web content, you can add links, HTML videos, and other contact information. So I'm going to go back up here first to just to that, because I want to talk about the events timeline. Events and time. I'm going to click on the events category. And what this does is it takes the events that I've already recorded it, and it shows them in chronological order by day, by year, and goes all the way down and shows all these different events that are occurring. And then it also, to the right, has a map that it takes these locations and displays them in various places on the map. And you can keep going all the way down here where it shows you all these different parts of that are on there. And if I click on this one over here, there's a census in Tennessee, and anyway, you can make the map larger and what have you. So that's kind of interesting. But right next to it is the timeline tab, and if you click on that, it will build, if you will, a timeline, which can be very interesting sometimes to help you. And you can also, like, you notice here I've got century. If I click on decade, it puts the map out a little bit, and I can scroll this, and I can also move left or right on it. But I can point to these various categories, and there's also these little icons, like this little baby carriage means birth. That means a marriage, and so forth. And a little tombstone means death, and what have you. But you can go to century, and it kind of helps give you that other look here, the timeline that's there. I'm going to go back to events. Okay, so if we want to add an event next, is what we were going to do here. So I'm going to click on Add Events. Now it's the same thing, which I think is interesting, and this is where MyHeritage uses the naming feature. Kind of interesting. They consider an event to be a fact, and not that it's not, but I mean, but don't get confused by when you see the word fact and then later you see event, okay? Because an event is a fact. So when you click on add an event, what pops up? The fact window. And these are the same ones we saw before. And if you think about it, for example, a birth fact is also an event, right? So that's what it's doing. And you can go through these and pretty much pick all these up, or you can click on custom fact and you can go ahead and you can build something off of what's here. Or if you don't like what's there, you can add the fact type yourself. Like somebody put 2005 in there, but you've got accomplishment, you've got all kinds of different things you can add in there that have been added, or if you don't like that, you can add your own as well. So you can pretty much use the templates and the data that's in the database already, or you can build your own if you don't like it there. But take a look at what's already available to you and see if the event or the fact that you're trying to add doesn't fit, if you will, what you've already got available to you. Many times you'll find it will. Okay? Now the one thing I wanted to point out to you too, I'm going to go here to the first event, which is the birth, and I'm going to click on the edit button because I want to show you this. This is an opportunity for you to add, some good detail information about a particular fact, event, if you will. And in this case was Benajah Pennington, his essentials, and it's bringing up the name and prefix, suffix, an opportunity if you wanted to put additional names in here. Like in his case, his spelling in his name, I've seen it spelled B-A-N-A, B-E-J-A-N-A. There's about 5 different ways that thing is spelled. So if you wanted to, you could add his other names that are in here, alternative names. Okay. You can also add a name, a nickname, a religious name, and if they're named after somebody, you could search for a particular person that might be named after. You can go into here for birthplace and baptism info. If you wanted to add that, you can add godparents and so forth and so on. And then you can go to place of birth and what have you. Okay, I'm going to cancel that. Okay, I'm going to go back down here to this information, which is this profile page. And down here after personal information is add source citations. So when you're adding certain things to this, it's going to ask you for source citations. So if you go here to where it says source, and if you click on the drop down, you're not going to see a whole heck of a lot. But if you start typing something, you should be able to. What happened there? That's interesting. Huh. It should be a drop down. Well, if you say add a new source, the add new source is a pretty thing where you can go ahead and pretty obvious where you can add the source title, abbreviation, author, description, and describe it. So this would be like, for example, if you wanted to add something of family Bible, something of that type that you might want to go ahead and add in there, or a census record or whatever it might be. And then here you have a blank text narrative area where you can then add the citation text into this. And then down below you've got, if it's a website, a page URL, your confidence level, which is entirely up to you, but they do give you some guidelines where it's unreliable evidence or estimated, questionable reliability, secondary, or direct and primary. And I urge you that whenever you add a citation or a source, please use that because it helps the next person who comes along and reads your information, your research, gives them a sense of how certain you are about this information. Now, if you don't know the difference between these different kind of confidence levels, if you will, and what it means by secondary, direct, and primary, go take a look at our primary website under research tips, and you'll find a link there that talks and will describe to you about primary, secondary evidence and what that all means and reliability of it, because it's very important. The other thing is that what I've done a lot of in my personal research is attend a family reunion and would interview, let's say, one of my aunts. Well, I record the information she provides me, and then write down the date and time that I recorded this information from her, and then I enter that as a source, as a personal interview with whatever the aunt's name was and the date, time, and location where I took the information from her. Now, that's not necessarily direct or primary. It's kind of the word of the mouth type of a thing, so it'd be considered probably secondary evidence because she's telling it to me. And I have found in a few cases where some of that information has been way off base, and in other cases I've found that it was right on the money. So, you have to kind of be the judge of that, but if it's an interview kind of a thing, indirect evidence, I think, is a better way to go for something like that. And then here's the date and time, when the information you're going to add it and everything else. So I'm going to cancel out of that for a second. They also have a thing here where you can view an album if you've already got it, or you can add photographs of this particular person. And then under the biography part of that, you can edit this, and you can go in here and edit whatever you want to on this to make it more information, to make it, make it mean something to you, but write it, of course, in a way that would be understandable to the next person who comes along and sees how it's set up and everything else. Now, under the web content, add links, HTML, video, and other content. If you click on that, right here is the page URL for the link and the link name. So let's talk for a second about Ancestry.com. Let's say that you find a family website or the name for a Juan family member, which is one of my associated allied names. And in the Juan family website, there is some information about my 3 times great-grandfather, including source information and everything else. And I check it out. I go, wow, this is a census record. There's a copy of birth record, a copy of death certificate. This has got really right-on information, and I can check it out. I have checked it out. It's good information. I want to use that. I could then use the web link, the URL for that particular family tree, and then cite it as a possible source within the information I'm recording here. And then the people who see this, so okay, cool. The downside to that is that if this family tree that I went to, if it's a restricted or a private website, the next person who tries to get into it may not be able to see it. So bear that in mind. If you do use a website and a URL information here where it's located, if it's a restricted or a private website, I wouldn't use it. Or in the notation there someplace, say, hey, this is a private website. Contact the owner of the website for access to the information, or maybe they can share it to you. Or don't even put the URL in there. Just make something under a note section that it's there. Under YouTube, this has got to be real popular right now, about where you can, if you have a video on YouTube that you want to embed in this, you can do that. You can also take in what's called an HTML snippet, which is you can take and let's say you're on a website and they've got some HTML text from the web page and you want to copy that and paste it into here, you can do that as well. And I'm going to leave that alone, all of those alone, because unless you're familiar with it and experienced with it, I would say don't tinker with it. And then down here it says share your memories. And again, this is where if you wanted to, you could add some personalized information about him. You also have an add comment here. So, if you wanted to do something like that, you could do that and add some more information to it. And that would provide you the opportunity to personalize it just a little bit more. All right, let's do this. Let's take about a 5-minute break, okay? Get up and stretch my legs for a minute. Okay, I'm going to turn my mic off. Okay. Testing, testing. Jill Pennington, are you able to communicate with us yet? Okay. Okay, Jim, can you hear me? All right, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Test, test. Testing 1, 2. Jim, are you back yet? Jill, are you there? Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Go back here and edit this again. I don't know why that didn't. Okay. Hi, Jim, are you back?
Yes.
All right, good. Um, was here talking about sources and so forth, and I wanted to demonstrate this help thing that I've talked about before. What I did was I went to the bottom of this page we were on, and here where it says support and help, and I clicked on help, and then when it came up, I typed in at the top of the page, how do I add a new source? And then here this popped up and it says, where can I see, add, and edit sources on my family tree? And it shows you this picture here. It says go to family tree and then go to sources. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here, go to family tree, and go to sources. All right, and what this does is this gives you a list, if you will, of sources, and I believe they're alphabetical, so it looks like to me, and where you can see all the existing sources. Now you also can go here in the search box and you can type if you're looking for a particular source, and you can type it, or you can just kind of go through it one at a time and you can see what it is and how they've done it, or you can edit it and so forth and so on. On the right hand side here, you notice it says citation 0. So there is a source that's been created, but it's not cited any place, which I find interesting. They're probably just an error in whoever created it. But you notice here, though, it says view, edit, or delete. And if you wanted to view it, you can click on it to view it, and it gives you the actual source, shows you where it is. You can edit it, you can delete it, you could also add photos, documents, and so forth, or you could record a citation for it. So I'm going to back up here one to go back over to here, and I'm going to click on citations right here. It says sorted by source title, then I click on citations. Now it's sorted by the citation, and if you notice here, Ancestry.com is cited 1,129 times. That particular one, the 1900 U.S. federal census, which I thought interesting. And then there's a bunch more citations, a lot of them from Ancestry.com. These appear to be, like, I'm going to click on this one just to see what it says, view it. And this comes up and gives you the source, and it gives you the details, the title and so forth, and the other location. Then it shows you 712 records cite this source. Okay? Shows you every place it's cited. And that's why it's a citation. Okay? So many times you can find sources that are already on there that might be of value to you, you know, or you can add your own source, and et cetera, et cetera. Go back over here. Okay. Now from here, you can look at those, and then you can also do advanced searches if you wanted to under the sources, which is here. And now you can go in and you can search in just specific fields. Okay. Now the next thing you can do is you can add a source easily from here, and you can do a tag shot, PRA master file, or whatever, and you say I want to add the source to PRA master file 2012. And again, this is the same window you saw earlier, where you can type in the source title, an abbreviation, the author, publisher, agency, etc., and then a description. And then if you wanted to add photos, audios, or documents, you can do that here. So you can then choose a file. So let's say choose a file, and let's say that, okay, this goes to the Pennington Pedigree one I have. So let's say that I had a particular image file here that I wanted to use that was a citation that I wanted to use. I can click on that file and just say open it, and then select it, and it would upload that as a citation file, and it would save it in the database. Let's say that it was an Adobe Reader file that I'd created that was a scan of a census record or a scan of a birth record, and I had it on my local computer. I could then upload it directly to here as a part of a source, and the source would then be titled like birth certificate, birth record, whatever it might be. And then you want to make sure that you provide the information here about, who created it, who's the publisher, what agency, and then describe it so that, the person who looks at this can look at that information and say, this is obviously, it's a birth certificate, and this is where it's located at the Pope County, Arkansas Registrar's Office, and it's located in Book 12, page 25, and there's an Adobe PDF file that's attached that's a copy of it. That's a really good piece of evidence. So you want to make sure you cite that. Now, that's a way to do that with the sources, okay? So you can search for existing sources or citations and how many times it's been cited, or you can add a source that way through this particular window, or you can add a source as you're entering a person, or when you're editing a person, you can go back there. All right, does that make sense? Any questions? The good news is there is no test after this. And believe me, most of this is all trial and error, in going to different classes and conferences and webinars and all the rest of that, and learning by doing and by making mistakes, and learning about other people's mistakes and them being gracious enough to share their mistakes with us and with me, so that hopefully I don't repeat them. But that's the only way you get experience in this, is just doing it yourself and trying to be as careful as you can. Which, by the way, is one of the rules of thumb that I use. Not rules of thumbs, but one of my guidelines that I use is I have a primary database that I use that's located on my personal computer. And that particular genealogy database is the one that is what I call my master database for me. And I keep all of my records and all the research is in there, and it changes continually. And then about once a year, I then use that software program to create a new GEDCOM file, and I then upload that GEDCOM file to Ancestry.com, to my personal website on Ancestry.com that I have, that's a private site. And I have another public website that's hosted by Roots Web, and I use a program called the Master Genealogist and another program called Second Sight that takes the data from the Master Genealogist and makes it into a website. And I do that about once a year. And then that is, and then on MyHeritage, I do the same thing with MyHeritage. So I've got like 3 different websites that get updated about once a year. And that's a result of the work I've done in the year on my primary database, my primary research genealogy program. And I do it and tweak it and correct mistakes, add information, and so forth and so on. And then once a year, I upload the new one that's the most current one. And some people, that's a lot of work to do. And some people don't want that approach. And that's up to you, because you can accomplish the same thing in a different way. Let's take MyHeritage, for example. Let's say you have your own personal MyHeritage website. That's your family tree with both your parents on there. And you're continually updating that with research, and you're doing the same thing. So it's current, it's kept up to date. So you're doing it live on the cloud up there, and it's constantly updated right away. As soon as you update it, edit it, change it, whatever it is you do, it's up to date. It's good to go. As opposed to mine that are out there in the cloud, if you will, that's only done once a year. So there's 2 different ways to approach it, and however you want to do it, it's up to you. Whatever is easiest and works best. So I leave that up to you to decide. Okay, let's go now over here to the research. I'm going to click on research, and we're going to talk about searching the records. If you notice that under the research tab, they give you, oh, let me clarify. We talked about this in the basic one. Remember, this is, where to get this, you have to have a paid subscription for the data subscription. In addition to your site subscription, you need a data subscription, okay? And you have to pay extra for that. So if you, and also there's the different levels of the site subscription. So this happens to be a premium plus that MyHeritage provides to our association. But on my personal one, I have a premium plus as well with a data subscription. And so you're going to pay for those. Now, each level of the site subscription gives you access to different information, but it will not give you access to all of the things that you would get if you went ahead and paid for a data subscription plan. So you have to decide whether or not that's worth the money for you or not, okay? So in this case, what I'm going to show you is the PRA's website has a data subscription plan. Now, what MyHeritage did is they misled me in particular about what our members would be able to access. I was led to believe that once one of our members was invited to the PRA's MyHeritage site, and you're now a member, you would be able to also have access to the data subscription plan that the site has. Turns out that's not true. We found that out the hard way. We went round and round and round trying to find out why we couldn't, why our members couldn't get to it, what the heck was going on, and finally the guy says, well, maybe you misunderstood me. And I went through the roof. So the unfortunate reality is that you're not able to get access to this group of site subscriptions unless you have your own data subscription plan. Now the good news of that is if you, I'll use myself as an example. My personal MyHeritage site is under my Gmail email address, and I paid for the site subscription. Now let's pretend that I was a PRA member and I was invited to join the PRA's Heritage site, and I joined it using that same email address on my Gmail account. Well, my site subscription or my data subscription plan would come with me. So when I went over to the PRA's website, I could still access that information and I could access all the data that's available because I bought it under my personal one and it comes with me. I'm using the same one. In my case, because I have two different MyHeritage accounts, one's personal and one's the PRA, that doesn't work that way. But because I wanted wanted to access the records on my personal one too, I did pay for that. Okay. So, did you do that yet, Jim, or are you just a regular member and do not have access to the data subscription plan?
I actually have access to the data subscription.
Okay. So when you go to the PRA's MyHeritage site, then you're able to see all these categories and everything then?
I'm not sure if I can see them all, but I see most of them.
Okay. Yeah, if you click on the research page
on
our website, you should see these different categories because you've paid for that data subscription plan.
Let's see. This page. Yeah, I do actually see those.
Okay, good. Because that's what I was told before. It is, and working with other members, that's what they told me, is it has to come from their personal login, and then once they go to their MyHeritage site, then they can also log into the PRAs, and the data subscription comes with them. So anyway, I was early upset with MyHeritage about that, but the old bait and switch, I guess, but they denied it. Because I said, well, I knew it was a pretty good deal the way you were selling it, that you were going to give our association free access to this and you were going to let our members join for free. And have access to all this stuff. I should have known better. But anyway, so here's the various categories on searching the records. And again, you've got a couple of different philosophies that you can use in this. One being you can start with a wide net, like I was describing earlier, in which over to the left it says search all records. And you can do first and middle and last name and year of birth. It has a calculate tab if you want to use that. And you can fill in as much of this as you're pretty sure about, or you can leave some of it blank if you don't know and see what happens. Excuse me. Down here where it says exact search, unless you're really sure of the spelling and some of the key information, I would leave this unchecked, especially the first time you're doing this, where you're doing that wide net search to see what you can come up with. And then below that, they have this search by locations, which you can click on this search from the USA, or you can also click on the various tabs where you can search by location that way, which is kind of interesting. And then over the right-hand side, it has categories if you want to search just categories. And within like census and voters, you notice they've broken it down to US, UK, Ireland, Nordic, and there's even more down below that you can search into. And then it pops it up even more detail, a lot more detail on census records. So if you're interested in doing that broad versus narrowing it down, you could use these categories to drill down to more specific things. Family tree, I would say that might be helpful to you, and you can play around with that and see what you get, birth, marriage, and date. Photographs, again, you'd have to be pretty specific. Military, immigration, travel. If you're looking for really, really old ancestors many generations ago, passenger list might be interesting. The citizenship and naturalization, immigration, and e-migration records. And again, there's more. Newspapers, books, publication, there's all these categories and maps. So, there's thousands and thousands of databases, let's say hundreds and hundreds of databases that you can search, and which is going to, check gazillions different sources and everything else for you. So you could try this and see what happens, again, under the searching under the wide net principle, and again using something like Benega Pennington. So I'm going to do Benajah and last of Pennington, and I'm going to put birth year of 1770, and place I'm going to leave blank. I'll leave keywords and just see what happens if I hit search. Now this is searching all the records. And right off the bat, of course, the most thing it comes back with is the MyHeritage family trees. And so there's tons of those, and I'm not going to look at them right now because I've looked at them before. I know a lot of these are, especially when I see things like this information with birth date and everything else, that came from me and from my research. And when I see this one in particular, oh, that's from my own file too. That's a picture we took of his what do you call it?
Tombstone.
There you go, tombstone. Thank you. And it solved the missing puzzle for us, where we were first able to identify his date of birth and death. Before that, it was unknown, and we were able to. My mom and dad actually found it in a cemetery in Missouri, and we were able to capture the records and have the cemetery records and all that. Let me jump over to page 4 just to see if I get away from the family trees. Nope. See, and it turned out he's a pretty popular guy, and a lot of people use him as MyHeritage, and also borrowed the picture of his tombstone and everything else. It's still MyHeritage. Okay, now here's something that says history of the state of Oklahoma. So they're getting away from MyHeritage in this particular one. And it talks about the strong Democrat, yada, 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 daughter of Benega Pennington, and so forth and so on. And so, well, that's interesting because the date's 1910 when it was published, and it's in Oklahoma, and I recognize the daughter, Sarah Lee, maybe, so that might be something I would want to check into and go search it. But again, I'm scanning really quick. And I apologize for moving so quickly on this, but I was trying to find another example. Let me jump down here to page 9. Wow. Now we're in Jenny World Tree. Now here's a family search family tree, the LDS site. So somebody has added some information on there from that's a little different than mine. That might be something I want to take a look at to see what it is. But you see how that's working though? Again, casting the broad net, and I'm getting all of these possible matches back, but I can quickly go through them and I can scan them, and I'm going, well, I don't want to go to the family tree thing. So what I might want to do instead would be to just say I just want to search birth and baptism. So I'm going to click on that, and excuse me a second. Okay. So I'm looking for, again, the birth date, and that's all I'm going to put in. But I'm just looking at birth and baptism. I could have narrowed it down like just for England or whatever. And now here's one of the interesting things. You notice that it's giving me now Claude B and William B. It's just pulling up the B's, not even Benega. So sometimes you might have to scroll through these a little bit more, and it's also bringing up just the last name in similar names. So you might want to scroll through those just on the possibility that there is a Benega somewhere buried in there that you might want to take a look at. Okay, I'm going to go back to here, and I want to do just England and Wales birth. I'm going to go here, and instead of Benega, I'm going to do B-E-N-A-J-A-H. Did I get it wrong? Last name of Pennington. Come on. Jeez. It'd be good if I could type right. And there is an older one that we've been looking for, trying to find him because we think that he is the progenitor of about 8 to 12 of our family groups, and born in 1724. And we can't find the guy in any of the records here in the state, and we paid a professional genealogist to do that, and we keep missing him somehow. See, there's a John. I can't find him. But anyway, that's another example of how you can narrow down your search, where you're just looking for particular locations and you want to do that. Let me go back here to the categories again. Birth and baptism, and I'm going to do the birth and marriages, birth, marriage, and death. And the reason I'm going through this exercise is just so you can see, what happens when you, again, using a broader search and the kind of results that you get back and the kind of information that you see. And I see here's one that's a B.O. Pennington in South Carolina, but it's 1915. So I know that's not the one I'm looking for. And you can kind of go through these one by one and take a look, and you can just see the basic information, and you can quickly tell whether or not that's somebody, that might be an interest, somebody you want to do some more research on, okay? So let me go back here to the research category again. And let me stop right there. So does that give you a pretty comfortable feel about how you can search those records and how you can, again, start off with a very broad search parameter where you're searching everything, or you can go into specific categories and even then subcategories as you want to try to narrow down your search. And again, you can use exact dates, or you can use circa dates, or try searching plus or minus 5 years each side of the date you're looking at to see what that gives you. You can use the advanced search feature, which gives you some more latitude, like I was saying here with the events, and you can do flexibilities that way, which is something you can play around with. So try that and see what luck you get and how successful you are. Now, here's the other thing. I want to go back really quickly to Family Tree, because this ties into the search the records and the next topic, which is the smart matches and so forth. I'm going to click on Levi, and I'm going to go right here into the upper right hand corner. You notice it says that there are click to view smart matches, and then down below that it says record matches. So I'm going to click on record matches for him, and you notice what this is giving me now is this is giving me a lot of what I hope to be really good data and sources that I can go look at to see whether or not this matches my person. And you can see that this is telling you where this information is coming from. It's a historical record, but it's coming from WikiTree, which I think it's interesting they call it historical record, because I would not. But here, though, it says 1850 United States Federal Census. Birth information, residence, population, and so forth and so on. The children, and it says implied. So you can actually go here and you can review this match. Now, to me, this is the best world of all. Okay, now I'm going to go back up here to Family Tree again, and I want to use my guy because I'm familiar with him. So I would start with your Family Tree. Now, in this case, see, there's nothing here. There's smart matches, but no record matches. But over here on his wife, there is record matches. So I'm going to click on the record matches, and there's only one. But again, it's the World Family Tree. And this data I'm looking at right now is the data that came from, I'm sure, from me. And somebody just brought it over to the Wiki Family Tree. But let's say it wasn't. Let's say it was some citation. I'm sorry, a source of some kind of like a census record or something like that. I could go into there, look at it, and say, yes, that is my 5 times great grandmother. I know it because the data there. I can look at the source citations. It's valid. It's good. I can see it myself. Yes, that's a confirmed match, and I match it. Now, of course, the greatest thing of all would be is if I found her father, and on that source record, let's say it was a census record and it listed her parents. Woohoo! Struck gold. Now I could go and research them, and if I'm convinced it's them, I can say add that to her record, and it brings that information right over to her, connects her on the family tree. So that's a simplified example, but I hope you see the potential value of that and how great that is. Now I'm going to go back over to my home page for a second. And down over here, on this side over here, on the left-hand side, and on your personal website, you should have the same thing. It says record matches. And it tells you how many record matches and how many historical collections. And then below it, it's going to talk about smart matches. But these record matches you should take a look at, because those are the ones that behind the scene, the computers at MyHeritage are churning away, looking at the data you've entered and trying to match it up. And it comes back and says, we've got some record matches that might fit your family tree and some people in your family tree. So you certainly want to take and go look at that. Okay? That is really important to do that. And in some cases, if you're really fortunate and lucky, it's going to open up a whole new area to you and give you some more data on some other ancestors that you didn't have before, or fill in missing blanks on some of your ancestors that you were not able to know about, you didn't know about before. So that's a really exciting thing, and that's the big value, if you will, the big pop about using databases like this one, and also, of course, my Ancestry.com. Now, I use Ancestry.com for my personal one as well because it has access to databases that MyHeritage does not. So just like MyHeritage will search all these databases that they can do for me, that some of which Ancestry does not, likewise with Ancestry. So you can mix and match both of them and bring data from one to the other. You can't just transfer it easily. You have to copy and paste it over, but you can still do it. Okay. So any questions about searching the records and how to use the record matches part of this? That's really a critical, important tool that you've got available to you. All right. Let's go then to this next area of the smart matches. Now down here where I said, that it shows you the smart matches, and in this case it shows more than 100,000. Again, I'm going to skip all that. I'm just going to go to Family Tree, and I'm going to load up my ancestor that I know who he is. And at the top of his profile, again, there's a green circle with a white set of inner circles that are smart matches. So I'm going to click it. And you notice it says, click to view smart matches to people in other family trees. Now, the intent here is really honorable, and in many cases, it turns out to be really valuable to your research. On the left-hand side, it has in your family tree, and then over here on the right-hand side, it has in other family trees. And then the first time you open up this window, it says this is a consensus of 7 smart matches. You can click on what's this, and you can point to it, and it gives you a little bit more information about it. And it shows you the information that's found in these other trees and how many match that same information. In this case, date of birth, 7/7. Now, I know that all of those got the information from me because I'm the one who discovered it. I'm not patting myself. Actually, my parents did, I should say. And I'm the one who first entered it out there many years ago. So I know that that data is correct. And then place of birth, there's different variations of this, the way it's been entered, and so forth, which is fine. And the date of death, again, all 7 are using the date of death that I had, and they're all using the place. Okay? So below that, it has pending confirmation, and it shows you the website and gives me the opportunity to confirm it or reject it or more actions. And then the next tab is confirmed. These are the ones that I have confirmed. And then the next tab is rejected. And these are ones that that have been, said, nope, this is not the same guy. Okay. So, and there's 3 pending confirmation. That's what it boils down to. So in your case, when you're looking at, let's say you're looking at the Pennington PRA website and our master file, and you're looking at your ancestor, you are the one who knows that information best on your ancestor, not me. So that is one of the big reasons why we moved all this data to the MyHeritage site, to give you, the PRA member, the opportunity to look at that data that's there and the possible matches that's being found on other family trees and or other historical records. So you can look at that and you say, you know what, that is my great-grandfather, and I know that because ... and I've got it. I'm going to say, yes, that's the guy. Boom. Or you look at the person and you say, you know what, his middle name was not spelled E-B-A-R. That's a typo. That's an error. And I know that because I've got a copy of his birth certificates. It's E-D-J or E-D-J-G-A-R, I should say, Edgar, or EBE or Eber, whichever way it is. And you know that because you've got the birth certificate. So you can make the change to the database yourself. And now it's good to go. And you know that, not me. And that was always the part when we started off with the John French master file, and John French, who was our research director many years ago, what he started doing was he started making changes himself to people's data that was submitted to put into our database. Some cases he was correct. Many cases he was not. In many cases he put data in that was not sourced, or no citation was used. And that resulted in some of the errors and some of the mistakes you find in our current database. And we've concluded that the best way to fix it is you, the member, to get in there and access your information directly. And you to fix it the way that you know best because it's your family lineage. Okay? I hope that makes sense. That's a pitch and an encouragement for you to do that. Now I'm going to go up here to Home. I'm going to go to Family Tree. Click on Family Tree. And the last thing I want to cover about importing a family tree. Sorry, Manage Trees. Now, Jim, if you go to Family Tree, do you have Manage Family Trees that you can click on? Will it open it up for you or not?
Let's take a look.
Okay, because I'm never sure about this one. The only other people I've talked to about this aspect of it were other site managers.
Let's see, it does not.
So if you click on Family Tree, Manage Trees, it does not say anything. There's no, that Manage Trees is not there.
Let me go to another screen here. Let's see. It is not there, no.
Okay. What about below that where it says Import GEDCOM?
I am not seeing that also.
Okay, all right. So this, the reason I say that was when we set this up, we originally wanted it to be set up so that you could import your own personal family tree directly into our website. And then we thought about that a while, and we decided that that was probably not a good thing to do. Rather, now our guideline says, Jim, join us. We'll give you, when you join us, you have to join MyHeritage first. You join for free. If you want just a basic site, you can do that. And then you can get access to the PRA's MyHeritage, okay? Well, if you go back to your personal MyHeritage site, there you can import a GEDCOM file and build your own personal family tree.
Yeah, correct.
That's the best way to do it, because once you do that, then you'll start getting the smart matches and the record matches, and you'll see if there's a similar person over on the PRA site, you'll get that match information. You'll say, hey, there's Benega Pennington, born 1770. He's on the PRA master file. Is this the same person that you have in your family tree? And you can match them up that way. Follow me?
Yes.
Or if you go to PRA master file and you go to that person in our family tree, you can get the match that way. So what we've told people, if you want to add your family, some of your family tree, and I'm using the word snippet. Let's say that you want to start with your progenitor, and he happens to be perhaps the progenitor of family group 7, Micah J. Pennington. But he's about 3 layers down. He's the son of another Micah J. Pennington, let's say. But he's not in the PRA master file. Well, you could then go to Micah J. Pennington and you could say, I want to add a son, and start with your, that snippet of your information you want to add. Just add like maybe 3, 4, 5 generations there that get you down perhaps to your grandfather or something like that. And then you could add a note there, that you entered it and cite the sources and all that. Then what happens over on your personal MyHeritage site, because your grandfather's already there and these other people you entered are already on your personal site, at some point you're going to get this match that's going to come up and say, hey, guess what? Over on Jim's site, he's got the same person. Is this the same guy? And you can say, yeah. So that's the way to add and fill in, if you will, and make that connection to a group progenitor if you don't have a connection there already on the PRA master file. So you build, if you will, a little ladder between your last known Pennington ancestor and the group progenitor, and you build that little ladder within the PRA master file, as well as you've already got it on your personal site. But it's an easy way to do it. You're duplicating the effort in some way, but they'll match up, and then you can say, yeah, that's the same person.
Excellent.
And if you don't want to do, 4 or 5 generations, just do 2 or 3. Whatever, however short or long you want to build that ladder. It's up to you. So I've had some people do that already, and some people have gone in and they've added, I forget who it was the other day, added 4 generations to do that link. So it's really up to you, whatever you'd like to add to that. And if you want to do them both, go right and build up and down, all the way down, please do. I encourage people not to put information on the PRA master file on our MyHeritage site, not to put information on living people. That's just not a good practice. On your personal website, if you want to add information on living persons, that's entirely up to you, but I strongly suggest that you make your website private then. Don't make it open to the public. And same thing in any other website you publish to the world, like on Ancestry or wherever it might be. Don't put information on living people, or if you do, make sure you check all the boxes to make your website and that information private. And if you want to share it, then you get to add who you want to invite to share that information with, like another cousin or somebody like that. So that information on living people doesn't get out in the wild. Does that make sense?
Yes,
yeah, by policy, the PRA had a lot of fights and discussions about that years ago, but we've all come to a consensus now that, especially in light of all the privacy concerns that are here today with us, that the more we can do to protect privacy on living persons and so forth, the better. So we encourage everybody, don't put information about living people. Now, you can put somebody's name. Like a lot of the genealogy software programs, you can add all the information in there, and you can create a GEDCOM, or you can create a report, but you can check boxes that say, don't put information on their personal information like birth and marriage and school or census. Don't put that on there. Just put the word living or still living. Put the name and show their children or their parents, but just put just still living on there. Don't put anything else. And that's another way to work around that. So, okay, open it up for questions. Now, we covered a whole heck of a lot, and I can tell you're going to be a busy guy for a while trying to do some of this. But it's really, once you get going, it's easy.
There are some steps here that really make things less time-consuming, and farther down in the research, I like the things like search via location if you're looking for a particular group of people.
Yes, absolutely. And the map idea too is kind of interesting. I didn't key on that particular importance of that geographic location until a few years ago. A couple of our researchers gave a presentation at one of our conferences, our reunions, about the importance of geographic research. And they used maps and push pins. And the beauty about a map and push pins is that the push pins don't care about city, county, or state boundaries. And so what's beautiful, and the reason they were pointing this out was because city, county, state boundaries changed a lot, especially on the East Coast in the first couple hundred years. And you can go researching for somebody in, North Carolina and find out that what today is that particular county back in the 1700s or 1600s, it wasn't the same county or state. It was Tennessee or something like that. So it's interesting to do that, to look at those geographic locations and also migration patterns. Very, very interesting if you look at migration patterns, and if you also look at the families that traveled together, and you see things like there was a Pennington and a Tankersley family that had neighboring farms. And then out of those two groups, there was two different marriages. Two brothers married two sisters, and they traveled together, ended up in another location side by side again. And you see those kind of migration patterns that happen as the people moved south and west. So it's always kind of, and that a lot of times that helps to go back and research those records too of neighbors and all that. So yeah, good. Any other questions you might have, Jim?
I'm good. I have a lot of work cut out for me.
Well, it's a hobby, right?
Some people call it a disease.
Exactly. Jill Pennington, I haven't heard from you all the time. It shows you're still here, and your Audible is still on. So all I can hope is that you were able to listen to it and you got some value from it. So I will end the webinar a few minutes early then, and we'll get the recording set up, and it'll take me a few days to get this converted over so that I can put it up on the website. So with nothing else to add at this point, I'm going to say thank you very, very much for your participation and attention. And don't hesitate to give me a buzz, either call me or send me an email if you have any questions, if I can do anything to help.
Excellent, Gene. Appreciate the effort on your part.
Well, glad to do it. Thanks so much, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.